we're going live. Let's just make sure we have volume. And we're going live. Cool. Alright, welcome friends and enemies, anyone of any persuasion. I'm Jackson Wood. I am the marketing and events coordinator for Japanime Games, and we are bringing back our weekly AMA that we would do every Friday at this time to answer your questions, talk to you, maybe tease some things, go over whatever questions you might have during the course of the live stream, and in general just kind of hang out for anywhere between 15 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how long people are hanging out for. I never really set a time limit for it. I only ever do it for about 15 minutes at a minimum, just to say, hey, here's the weekly recap, here's what we have going on. But we haven't done it for a while because we've been busy, and so for that I do apologize. It has been, well, it's been a relatively busy year, and as we are getting through November, almost to December, we have so many things to be talking about right now that I'm sure a number of you have had questions about. So, since we're getting started, I'm going to talk about things. First, I'm just going to start about talking about Kickstarter projects, because Kickstarter projects are oftentimes where they're just going to be one of those things where things can go wrong, things can be a little bit weird, things can be moved around to an extent. You never know quite exactly what's going on with the Kickstarter until you get an update, of course. So, with that, we do know that we've been a bit delayed on some of the Kickstarters. You know, we had hoped to deliver Tanto and a few others, but production is delayed, mostly for back and forth processes. As somewhat mentioned in Heather's updates, Heather tends to handle most of the Kickstarter stuff and does an exceptional job, but we did fall a little bit behind just because we have been so busy. So for that, we do apologize. We do want to keep you updated and keep things on schedule, but sometimes physical goods do just get delayed because, well, here we are in a COVID era life where things happen. But we're going to try to be more communicative with you. I know it isn't always exactly the level of communication you may be seeking, and so we're going to try our best to do better about that. But for one's testament, hopefully soon, we're still shooting for December for production timelines, December, January, but we haven't heard anything delaying that one as far as I know, so it's kind of at the front of the line. Then we have Tokyo Sidekick. Tokyo Sidekick got a little bit delayed, mostly again for some back and forth, trying to find the right trays. We've been experimenting with foam to try and make sure that can handle both the cardboard standees and the acrylic standees if you decide to upgrade. So, a little bit there. Tanto Digital is still on track. It looks like Tanto Digital is actually ahead of schedule to some extent. We were just doing some playtesting the other day, and we've opened it up to more playtesting. So, we're going to be trying to pull in people who were active during that campaign, regardless if they backed campaigns in the past. We just want people who are active and likely to give us feedback. And so, no matter if it's your first Kickstarter, your 100th Kickstarter, 500th Kickstarter, 1,000 Kickstarters, however many Kickstarters you do, you have an opportunity to be invited into that beta testing, as it were. So, that's the deal there. We have Kamikami Cthulhu. The Pledge Manager is going to open as soon as they're done importing things. I don't know if it's been done or not at the time of doing this live stream, mostly because it is 7 o'clock where Heather is, and it's only 4 o'clock where I'm at, so nothing there. What else in that regard? But once that's open, late pledges will be available. You can allocate all of your funds and figure out what you want, get any extra add-ons if you thought about them. And with that, here's the big part. We're actually going to be offering the pieces of art that maybe didn't get purchased during the campaign. With that, Eric so graciously, when Brian was allowing these pieces to be bought, a number of us in the company wanting such thing. I wanted it for my own personal reasons, primarily because I started in the industry at Privateer Press, and Brian Snoddy had a, I always get his name wrong every time. I know what it is in my head too. he helped form the Iron Kingdoms. Like, he did art and whatnot back when he was at Wizards. He's a phenomenal Magic the Gathering artist, and he does amazing work. Like, he paints all of those things. They're all physically painted, and then he digitally uploads them. So you can still get physical copies. And so, with that, those copies of art that didn't get purchased will be available, first come, first serve, during the Pledge Manager once it's open. But, talking about that, I wanted to take this opportunity to show off an actual piece of art in person. So this, as it's kind of reflected on there, you can see like all these reflections. This is actually like the physical. It's wrapped right now, mostly because I want to keep it safe. I haven't found a wall that I want to put it on yet. I'm a fan of art, but haven't had a chance to find this anywhere. I want to. I'm a lover of art, and so if you like physical art, part of why those pieces were so expensive during the Kickstarter is because they were professionally framed, just like you saw there. And of course, there's the trade-offs there, but that was a decision we made. So, as always, if you have any questions during the course of the live stream, please ask away, let me know, comment later with questions, reach out to us on social media, join me on Discord, whatever it may be. We'll talk about those things. I'll answer them for you the best of my ability. So, moving on to the next bit. Questions that may have been asked in general. I know there's a number of questions that have been asked in our Discord about various games. I'm always going to look for those answers, so if you have questions about games, reach out. We'll either give you an answer, or we'll talk with a developer, designer, whoever we need to, and get you an answer. In that process right now, but sometimes it can take a while. We do work with Japanese designers, and so there's a little bit of a lag time, or a longer lag time, where a question will be asked, then there's a translation period, then there's responses, then there's clarity, and then there might be some more back and forth in regards to like, okay, I didn't quite get what you meant, or they didn't quite get what we meant. That isn't always the case, but sometimes it can happen. So some questions can be super quick. Like if you ask me a question about Love Battle High School, good news is Brett is in a pretty similar time zone. He's in the US, so I can actually talk to Brett, the designer, and be like, hey, can you answer this for me? But for things like Core Connection, the game in question right now, those are a little bit harder sometimes. I don't have that back and forth. So, again, anytime you have questions, you can ask them. Every Friday weekly recap, which you have here. You can come into Discord and ask. You can ask on any of our social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You'll get a hold of me. Talk about all that stuff. Let's see what else is next in terms of things that are happening. Player's Choice. Player's Choice is going to be the next big thing I talk about, which is that we are getting more Player's Choice stock back in. So if you're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Size sleeves or otherwise, we're getting those. E3, I'll answer that question after I finish this little brief section, which kind of ties into that, actually. So it'll be a good segue when I get there. We've got a number of those Yu-Gi-Oh! Size sleeves in. We have standard size sleeves. We have larger sleeves, so we just added oversized sleeves for all of your bigger card needs. So like Kamigami, if you want oversized sleeves to protect those cards, now we have those offerings. Player's Choice, well known in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World, high quality sleeves, and we're going to be adding to that line with the segue announcement of licensed sleeves and playmats. So as we start getting these licenses, a la Grand Blue for Japanime Tactics, we're going to be looking at creating other accessories. So sleeves, playmats, things of that nature. And so leading that into the Japanime Tactics section, you will expect to... I cannot give you a hard date. And the reason I can't give you a hard date is because it's in approvals. So what's happening now to talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff is, if you're not playtesting Japanime Tactics right now, and you want to, reach out to me at marketing@ggdistribution.com. Normally we don't have people necessarily sign an NDA, but for things like this, especially when we're dealing with licensed products, we have to. So if it was something like a new game we were developing in-house, it'd be a little bit different. Obviously we want to get people excited, we want to show off the game, we want to do all that stuff. But when we're dealing with partners, sometimes we have to use an NDA because we may be dealing with sensitive material that they can't. let us talk about. And so, wrapping that all up, as the approvals process goes on, like we're kicking artwork back and forth, we're talking about designs, we're getting things like actual design elements approved or mechanical elements approved to the licensor's satisfaction. When we have that definitive information where they have said yes and they check that box, that's when we can talk about it. I want to talk a ton about Japanime Tactics, and your best place to at least get info on that can be talked about, that isn't me, is actually on the Linvander streams. So if you go over to the Linvander social media, specifically their YouTube and whatnot, Josh Dirksen, Josh being one of the Linvander crew who has done the bulk of the Japanime Tactics like layout and design right now, talks about it from time to time in his streams, and he's more apt to being able to talk about it. I can say we're just waiting for approvals on the Grand Blue side of things, so the side games side. So when they give us the thumbs up, you could bet that I'm going to be screaming about Japanime Tactics because I am hyped for it. It plays exceptionally well. If you come from the miniatures world like I do, it's such a good transition. And of course you don't know because I'm talking about a thing you haven't seen yet. It, to me, is a really great blend of board game and miniatures game. Kind of how Steamforge has tried to set itself up. Like, they started as miniatures, and then they've been rebranding things and talking about things as board games. So, it hits that niche, to me, exceptionally well. But let's talk about the things that I can talk about with Japanime Tactics. So we'll just kind of... I'm playing around with YouTube's new creators, so I can actually like add time marks as I go, which is so nice compared to me going back and adding them. So let's talk about Japanime Tactics. Out of the box, it's going to be a 2v2 experience, so you're going to have 2 characters each. You'll play against each other. It has objectives baked in. It's very straightforward. It's card-based, so similar to Alternate Souls. Like, we can kind of talk about that from a design perspective. Part of the reason why we decided to work with Alternate Souls is 2 ideas cropped up independently of one another, Japanime Tactics and Alternate Souls. And they had a similar approach, at least in terms of game construction, but not in terms of execution. And so, in the same way of Alternate Souls, where you will have a character, that character will have cards associated with that character. And then those cards go to the deck. Unlike Alternate Souls, all of the cards for a character that you are playing go into your deck. You don't get to customize your deck. Your deck is set based on the characters you're bringing to the table. But all of those cards can be used for every character. They just have different effects based on what those cards are. But if you're playing a card specific to a character, so let's say in the case of Grand Blue, you are playing a Gran card with Gran, you can use whatever special effect that card has. Otherwise, you're looking at matching colors and symbols, which we'll talk about more. I'll do a full sort of Japanime Tactics breakdown when we are allowed to talk about it, because I'm going to be showing it off a lot. The other fun thing about it is we have it loaded up into Vassal, so if you have played miniatures games online, it's a great tool for that. It actually gives us a ton of log data, too, so we can go back and see every single move that our playtesters are doing, and look at balance from that perspective, too, which is really nice. It's not something you can always do from a classic miniatures game when you're measuring like 6 inches across the board, right? Like, that's so many permutations of movement where you can be like, I move 2 this way, 1 this way, 1 this way, 1 this way, right? Japanime Tactics is all done on a grid, and so it being a tactic style game a la Japan, like Final Fantasy Tactics. I was going to say Japanime Tactics, like, yeah, that's the whole thing. Final Fantasy Tactics, like, it's all orthogonal movement. We think you're going to have a ton of fun with it, especially when you start getting to build your own teams. So that's the core of that there. So, in general, as always, kind of moving from that. If you have questions, just like Ithri did in the chat, if I'm not seeing them for some reason, please let me know through some other means, because... oh no, get out of here, back you. Because I can be a little bit of a doofus in that regard. But I want to make sure I answer your questions to the best of my ability at this time. Kind of talk about them there. So wrapping up that section, more information on all of these projects that we have going, because we have other projects too. So I was going to move on, but I'm lying, because I ramble. Crunchyroll just announced that we have things going on too with other licenses for Bananya and Black Clover. I can't talk about what those are at this point in time, but I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for Black Clover. This year alone, there have been a number of IPs that we haven't gotten to talk about yet that, like, young Jackson would have been like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like, losing his mind about. And so, this has definitely been the year of Jackson. Not only for me coming on board and doing all these things and getting to know all of you, but also getting to have my own wish fulfillment accomplished with just IPs that are going to be super exciting and we think you're going to have a ton of fun with because we want to make great games. So that's the big stuff there, Japanime Tactics and some other licensed stuff. Segueing forward, talk about it now. Cowboy Bebop Space Serenade, easily our best game of the year. Super exciting. Great thematic deck builder, in my opinion. May not be your jam if you're not into deck builders, and that's okay. But tying it all together, the next IP that we're going to be announcing and showing off actual artwork for eventually are going to be Cowboy Bebop licensed sleeves and playmats. And they are tons of fun. So, the next sort of steps are getting approvals, making sure everything is approved, moving from that point forward, and then once that point has been established, actually getting the opportunity to talk about those things. Because there's a lot of moving parts between us working with partners who are okay with us talking about those things and making sure that everything lines up between their side and our side when it comes to marketing, press releases, events, anything of that nature. So it makes it a little bit harder. It is one of the difficulties that we face licensing IPs to work on from companies. So, but there's a number of other great games going out on Kickstarter and otherwise right now, like Level 99. They're doing a ton of really cool stuff. Lion Wing recently did things. We worked with them for Testament, so that was really exciting. We just announced Naruto Ninja Arena, so focusing on the Chunin exams from Naruto's history. And that's with Don't Panic Games, so same people we've worked with for Cowboy Bebop Space Serenade. They are bringing the first Roll and Clash game, Roll and Clash being a system that has been designed with Naruto Ninja Arena. And I'm super stoked for that because the designers on that are amazing. The Kedama team are some of my favorite, like Antoine Balza, Theo Riviere. Like, Theo is hands down one of my favorite designers as a person to beat because he's just so nice. And his fashion sense is impeccably amazing. When I first met him, he was wearing a t-shirt, like a shirt, like a nice button-up shirt, and like nice shorts. But the shirt very subtly had all of these sharks on it. And I think hot dogs? I don't actually remember, but I was just like, oh yeah, I want to be best friends with this person. So, that doesn't really speak to their game design, but if you've played any Antoine Balza game or any Theo Riviere game, like, they're fun. Like, I've never had a bad time with any of those games. Tokaido, one of my favorites. Seven Wonders, from Theo Nagaraja. If you haven't played Nagaraja and you are looking for a great two-player game that has some really neat drafting and like push your luck dice mechanics. It's not super push your luck, but it's interesting. I really like that game, and I could not be more excited to have a game in our catalog that Theo worked on. It's going to be dope. So those are kinds of the big things there. The final teaser that I'm going to leave you off with for today is this. So starting next week, not even the day of the event, but starting next week, we are going to have a Black Friday sale. We're going to be doing it longer than just starting on Black Friday and ending on Cyber Monday. We're going to make sure that you get your access to it. And it's going to be kind of bonkers this year. Other years we have done, like special promotions, etc. But this year, because there's a couple of things wrapped into the Black Friday excitement, you can expect 3 different components. I had to count my head. 3 different components to Black Friday. It's going to be a really cool Black Friday special happening. If you purchase anything during Black Friday and longer than Black Friday, but it's going to start on Black Friday, we're going to be doing another promo item. So you're going to get Black Friday specials, and you're going to get a promo for ordering stuff through our store, which is going to be super cool. And we have another big announcement that will be, like, it will tie into those other 2, but we think it's going to make a lot of folks happy. It's something that we had hoped to talk about sooner than now. I'd like to say that people who can hear how I sound normally are going to look at me and be like, oh, that guy's a dum-dum. And it's true, but you're going to be excited. So those are the big things. As always, if you have questions, reach out, let me know. Post your questions in the comments, and hopefully I'll see them and get back to them. And if I don't, then you can yell at me and be like, Jackson, answer my question. I'll be like, oh yeah, and I'll answer your question. But as always, every Friday going forward, we'll let you know ahead of time if not, but like right now, from now till whenever, every Friday 4 p.m., unless we find a better time, Jackson Rambles. So I'm going to start winding down with like a sort of an end ramble. It's not a preamble. It's not a pre-ramble. It's a post-ramble. But as I'm doing this post-ramble, I'm sort of fading out. We have a couple of people viewing. If you have questions, ask away. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of fade out in like a real weird way, as I often do. So at least for me, this year has been a trip. And I'm sure it's been a trip for all of you. Like, yeah, I did that. Right, trip for everybody. But recently I just did an interview series over with Elle and Elle Wickham, Maggie Clayton, Elle being from Deepwater Games, Maggie being from Greater Than Games. And we just talked about so many things on the insidery side of the industry. And that's the stuff that I love talking about. So anytime I can get you to come watch or hang out and ask me questions and like I can talk about it, that's going to get me psyched. So if you get a chance, go check out that interview series. Elle is a sweetheart. Elle is one of my favorite people in the world. There's not really much else. Like, is it like, I've said it before, I'll continue to say it, like, the gaming industry is such a wonderful place to be because everybody is so, for the most part, so kind to one another. And we're all in this because we're passionate. And so I appreciate the passion that all of you bring, and I hope that you can keep joining me on a weekly basis to ramble and hang out and have some fun. And then hopefully one of these weekends you'll get a chance to sit down and play games over Tabletopia or Steam or something with me, because I'm really looking forward to that with all of you. But again, as we wind down, thank you all so much for letting me ramble. This is the first official episode of Jackson Rambles. I'll do it again next Friday. But it's nice to be back in the seat. It's nice to be talking to folks. I appreciate the questions when I get them. And beyond that, much love to all of you. Take care out there and stay safe. Bye.